This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield on ESPN Radio 94.1.
And as it is each and every Saturday, 757 Saturday Sports Talk is brought to you by Larry King Law. If you're injured in an accident, you call 757-595-8100 for Larry King. Matt Hatfield here with you. Dino Franz, the other side of the glass. We'll be talking with the coach, Ed Young, later on in the show. Who else will we have on the program? We'll have Peninsula Catholic basketball coach Trevor Dorsey. We did a Zoom with him this week. His basketball team, Dino's actually played 4 games this year. High school basketball is underway in some pockets and parts of our state, even a few Hampton Roads teams, and they won last night to move to 3-1 over Portsmouth Christian. They played Veritas. They lost to Catholic out of Virginia Beach, formerly known as Bishop Sullivan, at the buzzer. And they beat Norfolk Christian in a game I watched on the NFHS network that was streamed live and also is archived on demand there earlier this week. So we'll talk with him about things for the high school athletes during this pandemic and battling COVID-19 as they try to get a season off the ground. The public schools are supposed to begin practice, while some of them, including Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, on Monday. Games cannot begin until December 21st for some of the public schools. Others, such as those in Hampton, Newport News, and Virginia Beach, as well as Norfolk, will begin in January. We'll talk with the man of HokieHaven.com, in charge of that website. That's the Virginia Tech side on the Rivals.com network. Tim Sullivan around 11:05 this morning to get the update on Virginia Tech football, basketball, and recruiting. Some recruiting news of interest later on in the program as well. And then we'll hear from Leroy Keys giving us the keys to the locker room, the 757 great that we last spoke with back in September, as we go around the NFL a little bit with some local flavor and so much more with Leroy Keys and our pal Coach Charles Hatcher of Sports Inside and Out, our good friends there with the podcast. So be curious to get Leroy's take on a few of the topics of note in the NFL. The Purdue great on the Mount Rushmore with Drew Brees and Rod Woodson and Bob Greasy. Let's take a quick phone call, and the lines are open at 757-687-9494 here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Our man Yotis, I know he's a UVA guy. What's going on, Yotis? How you been?
I'm good. I was hearing you guys talk about the concerns of UVA ball, and I am equally as concerned, but I will say a couple things, and I think they'll right the ship, because Tony usually has these growing pains at the beginning of the season, and 2 of their best players right now in terms of this team, Sam Hauser and Trey Murphy, are both transfers. So Hauser's used to the defensive part. He's kind of sat there for a year and learned it, but he hasn't learned it with anybody on the floor in terms of his teammates. So what I'm noticing is a lot of really bad mistakes, a lot of turnovers, which is traditionally what happens the first couple of games UVA plays. And then once they start getting into that rhythm of playing defense, they do better. I think this year's offense is 10 times better than any of those teams Tony had before. So once they learn the defensive aspect, I don't think they'll be beaten. Last night's game, what I will say is they missed a lot of free throws.
They did.
And as with the San Francisco game, they were getting threes hit all over the court on them. So whenever they play a team like that, just like UMBC, and they're hitting those threes, even ones that were banking off the rim that you were like, oh, they got a shot clock violation, you're like, this is one of those nights. So I think they'll right the ship. I don't think many teams right now are doing well, as you could see last night with Michigan State playing a close one with Detroit Mercy. I think it's just the learning curve of the COVID times, and they'll be a great team by the end of the year, and I'll take it off the air.
I think you make some great points, Yotis. Thank you for the call. And that's the thing. A lot of these teams, early in the season, they're very sluggish. You've seen Kentucky. The game with Kansas was not your usual Kentucky-Kansas game. Both teams shot it really poorly from the field in that one, and you're going to have some growing pains, especially with some of these new faces they're incorporating, like a Hauser, who was a transfer from Marquette, like a Reese Beekman, who I think is going to be a major factor in the backcourt by the end of the year. He's still kind of fitting in with Kihei Clark and some of those faces there. Murphy, who's a newcomer. He's a big wing and about 6'8", 6'9", almost more of a small forwardish type than a two-guard to me. And that's the thing right now. The thing about UVA is they're disciplined and well-coached enough to beat anybody in the country. But because of the way they play, if they get the wrong tournament matchup, they also could find themselves down too much to make the comeback. So that's the worrisome part about them. I know they won the national championship. Tony Bennett knows what he's doing. He'll get this thing ironed out. But if they draw the wrong type of team, remember Michigan State was that for a few years, they could also be out. So it's all going to be about their path to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, think about UVA. They got to stick to their game, and their game is they like to slow it down. They like the low-scoring game. You're right. If they get the right matchup, they can go far. They get a team that is a run-and-gun type team, they may have a problem there, and like you said, have a hard time keeping up.
Yeah, I think at one point they were doing all right on the boards, but literally the Kent State Golden Flashes got like 6 offensive rebounds in about a span of 2 minutes to end regulation and overtime. So, like, again, if you catch them where that team can make it almost like a street ball type of game, which is not UVA stuff, you're in a little bit of trouble there. So we'll see how they do moving forward. I still pick them as the favorite in the ACC, but I'm not saying it's a lock like I was thinking about, say, a month ago. Nothing's a lock in pandemic COVID-19 era.
And they were picked to win the ACC, so you got to worry about the so-called jinx there.
You do. First time since Big Ralph, Mr. Sampson, back in 1982. Let's talk to our man in Claremont, sometimes in Smithfield. He's all over the place. Keith joining us here on the cell. Good morning, Keith.
How you doing, Matt Hatfield? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. We're going to get your football coach, Mr. Bazemore, on the show, but a little birdie told me that they've got a 5-star offensive lineman, which I'm not, Smithfield's had some skill guys, including our buddy Chris Pierce for the Vanderbilt Commodores, some other good players, Will Robinson, some skill talent. But when I heard that, my ears perked up. So maybe some good times ahead for your Packers there.
Yeah, we got a good team. We got some firepower coming back. We're gonna do things to win the district. I want to win the district.
I'm looking forward to some high school football in February and March, Keith. I don't know about you. I need my fix right now. I'm deprived. What's going on? What else is on your mind?
We got to get on. I saw Darion Seaborn the other night.
Darion Sebron, who, if people don't know who that is, he helped Lake Taylor boys win their first ever state championship a couple years ago. I hear his grades are much, much, much better, which is just fantastic news. Remember, he couldn't play last year. I think it was academic reasons. But, yeah, he's going to be a key part for the Wolfpack. I love me some Darion Sebron, Keith, but I cannot stand me some Kevin Keats, the coach of NC State, which if I had enough time, I'd tell you the story why. I just don't trust the guy. I'll leave it at that. But I like Sebron, so I'm rooting for Sebron, not so much Keats.
Another thing, I don't know what's wrong with Joe Bryant. He didn't play the other night. He hurt or something.
Yeah, it's funny. His dad walked by me and we talked socially distant. By the way, the night before the game, I think it's a back. He'll return. I'm thinking he's going to play Monday. I'm not sure on that, but they could have used him the other night. It does not seem like it's a long-term situation. So if he's not back by Monday, I would expect him in a lineup as they get into the teeth of their conference play in MEAC.
There's another kid to play on the state championship team at Lake Taylor. Jordan, where he playing ball at?
Jalen Jordan? Oh, that's a great question. He went to Francis Marion, but I believe he left there. Oh, gosh. You would ask that question, Keith. Only you. But we love you, Keith. I think he's now at Bryant and Stratton. Don't quote me on that. I'll do some homework on that. But I think he left Francis Marion to go to Bryant and Stratton. According to his Twitter feed, it says he's at BSC, which would stand for Bryant and Stratton College. So I think I got that one right. There you go.
And last thing up there, Mike Thomas. I think Pittsburgh is going. I think they might go undefeated, might not go undefeated. I think they're going undefeated.
Well, Keith, I mean, that's not really going on a limb. They might or they might not. What are they going to do? I mean, you want their schedule? I'm gonna hold you down to it, Keith. That's like me saying, you know what, Keith? It might rain tomorrow, or it might not rain tomorrow. Okay, here's their schedule. I want to know undefeated or not undefeated. They play Washington, which should be a win, at Buffalo, at Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and at Cleveland for the former Denby great and William & Mary standout Mike Tomlin and his Steelers.
I think they're gonna beat Washington and they're gonna beat Buffalo. I think they're gonna beat Buffalo.
So then you got them going undefeated, probably, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I will buy you 2 sodas and a Virginia Preps Classic shirt if that happens.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And Coach Eddie on say hi today.
I will do so. He'll be delighted to hear about you, Keith. Thank you. You have a good weekend. I look forward to catching up with you again soon. The one and only Keith from Claremont, Virginia.
You know, what did Mike Tomlin say after that game against Baltimore? Something about they sucked or whatever?
JV. Called them a JV team. I mean, he doesn't mince words, does he?
I mean, they could have played better, I guess. They got the victory. It was kind of ugly there towards the end, but they did win. And Baltimore, to even be in that game later on in the contest was even amazing with as short-handed as they were. So maybe that's what Tomlin was referring to, that, hey, we're much better than we really were out there on the field today.
Before we head to break, a couple quick college football notes. BYU Coastal Carolina today, game on ESPNU.
And
5:30.
that's a matchup that it wasn't supposed to happen.
No.
And I saw yesterday where the truck was heading there to Coastal Carolina. You know, the game day truck.
Supposed to be Liberty, so you've gotten that game. Coastal is actually favored. They're an 11-point underdog. BYU's favored by 11. I think BYU wins, but I'm not sure they'll cover. And then of other note, we got obviously Virginia Tech taking on Clemson. We'll talk about that with our man Tim Sullivan later. The Hokies are a 22-point home dog. Dabo Swinney is 5-0 at Clemson against Virginia Tech. Here's the one that got me, though. Boston College plays UVA today. You know Boston College is 6-0 all-time against UVA, last winning 41-10 in 2017. That's a 3:30 game on ESPN3. BC has never, ever lost to Virginia in football. How about that?
Interesting. Didn't realize that.
And they are a 3.5-point bow wow underdog at UVA today. Cavaliers are playing better. They're 4-1 at home, 0-3 on the road, but they've won 3 straight games after that 1-4 start, which began when you picked them boldly to beat North Carolina, and they did. So we'll see if they can. You know, Boston College is with Djokovic. Their passing is pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep them off the field and control time of possession in this game.
It should be a really, really good game.
The other game I'm keeping a close eye on, and there's a number of games today. It's not a huge or a super fantastic slate of games, but keep an eye on this one. I think this one's going to have a little bit of interest. In fact, we've got it right after our show, do we not? Oklahoma State at TCU?
That is correct. Coming up at noon today.
2.5-point favorite. I don't think Okie State's going to make a run to the playoff, but I do think they disappointed me against Oklahoma. They have as much talent as anybody in the Big 12 conference. So there you have it. And by the way, if Notre Dame is to win today over Syracuse, which they should, it'll be their 4th straight season of 10-plus wins, trying for their first national title since 1988. We know that about the Irish this year. They've got Jeremiah Owusu, a projected first-round pick on defense out of Bethel High School for them. But how about that? They've never had 4 straight seasons of 10-plus wins in the long lore of Notre Dame football.
And, of course, their big win against Clemson earlier this season. But you got to wonder about Notre Dame when it comes into those college football playoff games. It seems like they underachieve is the word.
They do, and I think they're going to have the work cut out for them if they do get Clemson coming up in the ACC championship. We'll come back, and we'll do a little bit of high school. We dabble in everything on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on the morphing of our show from the old high school sports days. We'll get to the high school realm with Trevor Dorsey, head basketball coach at Peninsula Catholic. It's coming your way next right here on ESPN Radio 94.1.